Welcome to Arirang TV's continuing coverage of COVID-19. For the third straight day, Korea's daily caseload stands in the double digits. Yet authorities claim it's too early to lower our guards as schools are open nationwide and the Chuseok holiday is just around the corner, raising fears of mass movement of people. We start the program now with the latest numbers on the pandemic with our Kwon Soa and related news with our Kim Ji-yeon. Soa, further decline in cases for Korea on this Tuesday. Please tell us more.
Sure, Sunny. Well, for the third consecutive day, we are seeing a number below 100, with authorities hoping the situation can be controlled at a manageable level before the Chuseok holiday. Now, from what it looks like as of this Tuesday, we are seeing a day-by-day decline since Friday, but that doesn't mean that we can jump to conclusions as of yet, as the numbers could still fluctuate as the week progresses.
Right. Now, aside from the Chuseok, Soa, the flu season is also a matter of much concern for officials here. And speaking of that, I hear the free vaccinations that were poised to start today for teenagers and pregnant women were halted.
Right, Sunny. The government announced earlier today that there was a problem during the distribution process of the vaccine doses, as some of them were reportedly stored in temperatures outside the required range. The government assured the public, however, that there is no issue with the vaccine itself, and KDCA Commissioner Jung Eun-kyung said it may take around 2 weeks for a thorough investigation, which means a delay in the free flu shot program is inevitable. But better safe than sorry. With that, let's take a look at Tuesday's figures. 61 cases were reported, bringing the total to above 23,100. The death toll stands at 388, and there are 144 people currently in serious to critical condition. That's 3 more than yesterday. We have some 2,277 people remaining in quarantine, and almost 200 people have made a full recovery from the virus in the past day, raising the total to over 20,400. And let's take a look at our map now. We do see double digits in Seoul and Gyeonggi-do province, but a significant drop here in the metropolitan region. 36 cases that were domestic infections in Seoul, Gyeonggi-do, and Incheon combined were reported this Tuesday, and that is the lowest figure in 41 days. But nevertheless, the total accumulation in Seoul has surpassed 5,000 this Tuesday. And we also have 10 cases that were categorized as imported cases this Tuesday. And with that, let's take a look at the global figures now. The world has almost 31.5 million total infections, with again some 250,000 cases added in just a day. And the death toll stands at almost 970,000, with some 23.1 million recoveries. Let's move over to the major outbreaks across the world. The US, followed by India. These are the places hardest hit, and our Kim Ji-yeon will go into details into these countries later on. And in the meantime, Peru has surpassed Colombia in total cases, and Mexico has become the next Latin American country that has surpassed the 700,000 mark. Let's move over to other places on our table. France and the UK are countries with thousands of new cases on a daily basis. Some 4,000 were reported here in France and 3,000 in the UK. And Italy is soon to become the next country with over 300,000 cases, as there are resurgences there as well, with over 1,000 cases reported in just a day. And those are the updates I have for now, but I'll be back after the government briefing. Sunny?
All right, so thank you for that coverage. Back on the local front, the next 3 weeks are set to be crucial in deciding the future course of Korea's latest COVID-19 outbreak. I have our Kim Ji-yeon here in the studio with me with details on that. Welcome, Ji-yeon.
Welcome to be back.
Right, now, Ji-yeon, let's begin with the extension of level 2 social distancing here in Korea.
The government had initially planned to end the level 2 measures this weekend, but has extended it for another week, with cluster infections being steadily reported in the Seoul metropolitan area since mid-August. It vowed to prevent another mass infection ahead of Chuseok, adding that cluster infections have the tendency of breaking out following a holiday weekend, as seen in May and August earlier this year. In the capital and adjacent regions, level 2.5 social distancing measures had taken effect for 2 weeks up until last Sunday and was lowered to level 2.
이에 따라 The current Level 2 measures will apply to regions outside the Seoul metropolitan area, just like the ones in effect for the capital region, until September 27th.
Level 2 social distancing measures prohibit gatherings of more than 50 people indoors and 100 or more people outdoors. Operations of high-risk facilities are prohibited during the period, and that includes nightclubs, singing rooms, buffet restaurants, large private academies, and door-to-door sales firms. The government has designated a 2-week period starting September 28th until October 11th as a special disease containment period and will announce detailed preventive guidelines this Friday.
I see. Now, I touched upon this reality briefly yesterday before the government briefing on COVID-19. But Jian, do tell us about the guidelines in place right now, specifically for the Chuseok holiday.
We'll have to see until Friday, but it's probably going to be very meticulously crafted with authorities trying to anticipate the movement of the masses ahead of Chuseok, where friends and families tend to go long distances to meet their relatives. Some of the heightened measures include a ban on indoor dining at highway service stations from September 29th to October 4th, with only takeout orders being allowed. However, people will be allowed to eat at tables set up outside, which will be equipped with plexiglass partitions. And of course, anyone visiting the service stations is required to get his or her body temperature checked and fill out a registry before entering.
And meanwhile, I understand that those who fail to wear face masks on trains will be fined.
That's right. The Transport Ministry says it'll make it mandatory for all train passengers to wear face masks, and those that fail to do so will have to pay a fine. And this is similar to the measures enforced since May, requiring all passengers nationwide to wear masks while using public transportation, including buses, subway trains, and taxis. Another new measure could include closures of public facilities. Already, the government said national cemeteries across the country will be closed during Chuseok, so families that usually hold rites to honor their ancestors at their grave sites may have to postpone their plans.
Right, shifting our focus abroad then, Cheon, some of the hardest hit countries in the world are easing their movement restrictions despite the dangers of further infection. Tell us more.
Well, we saw Kwon So-ah over there telling us about the global figures, but over in India, which has overtaken the U.S. as the global leader in the number of new infections in recent days, authorities reopened the Taj Mahal to visitors for the first time in 6 months. And the world-famous white marble mausoleum in Agra, south of New Delhi, is India's most popular tourist site, and it usually draws 7 million visitors a year. Due to COVID-19, local authorities say it'll restrict the number of daily visitors there to 5,000, which is a quarter of its usual number of visitors. Not only that, the country has further eased restrictions on trains, domestic flights, markets, and restaurants, as the government is reluctant to tighten measures again after a stringent lockdown in March devastated the livelihoods of tens of millions of people. The country's gross domestic product plunged nearly 24% during the second quarter compared to the same period last year.
I see. All right, Cheon, thank you for that coverage. Hope to see you again soon.
Thank you for having me.
Right, well, we are poised to join the government briefing on COVID-19. It's the second day of offline classes for schools in the Greater Seoul area, and authorities are calling for vigilance as the country also prepares to usher in the Chuseok holiday next week. A few new measures have been put into place to discourage the mass movement of people during this year's 5-day family holiday. Dining and drinking at rest stops will not be possible, as such establishments can only offer takeout services this year. Also, officials that is, have decided to charge toll fees at highways this year with the aim of discouraging travel. National cemeteries will also be closed during this year's Chuseok holiday, and family members are also being encouraged to pay their respects at their homes. The briefing has started. We'll come back to you afterwards.
We have Mr. Kwon Junuk with the explanation. Let us now begin our regular briefing on the COVID-19 response for South Korea for September 22nd, Tuesday. As of today, we have 51 new local infections. And the total caseload now stands at 23,106. And 193 more people have been discharged, while 2,277 people remain in quarantine. There are 144 patients with severe or critical conditions, and we had 3 additional fatalities. I extend my deepest condolences to the deceased and the members of the bereaved families. And now let us look at the updates of domestic infections. We have seen 8 provinces or cities that have no new infections as of today. And as of noon today, we have some updates. First, starting with Seoul Metropolitan City. And regarding the August 15th Seoul rally, we have 3 new cases being confirmed. A total of 622 have been confirmed to date. And in Sammo Sporex in Gwanak-gu District, we have 3 additional cases being confirmed. A total of 13 cases have been confirmed to date. And in Gangnam-gu District, Daewoo Deoville Plus, we have also seen cases, and we have 14 cases being reclassified, and 1 more person has been confirmed. In total, we have 39 cases being confirmed to date. In Gangnam-gu District, we have the Sinto Venture Tower, and we have 6 additional cases, and a total of 32 cases have been confirmed to date. And in relation to Sinchon Severance Hospital in Seodaemun-gu District, we have 4 additional cases. A total of 50 cases have been confirmed to date. And moving to Gyeonggi-do Province, we have Pak-aewon, which is a mental care facility. We have 5 additional cases. 29 have been confirmed to date. And in Bucheon City, we have the Nambu Church. 3 additional cases have been confirmed. A total of 20 cases have been confirmed to date. And next, moving to Busan Metropolitan City, in Yeonjae-gu District, we have an information session on the health supplement, and we have the first index case on the 17th of September. A total of 12 cases have been confirmed to date, and in total, we have 13 cases as of now. And in relation to the Busan Donga University, we have 1 additional case being confirmed. A total of 13 cases have been confirmed to date. And in Gyeongbuk District, Gyeongbuk Province, Pohang City, we have also Saemyeong Christian Church, and we have a total of 5 cases to date. And as for the imported cases, we have 10 new imported cases. And as for the countries of origin, we have 4 from the U.S., which was followed by Uzbekistan and India with 2 respective cases. And we continue to note that starting from the January to late September, we have seen the diverse infections of the infectious diseases, and we have seen a decline of measles and also chickenpox as well. And we have seen that there have been a major decline in these infections, and we believe that all these was possible thanks to the public's participation in the quarantine measures, including washing of their hands, as well as keeping a healthy distance. And we also have some updates in regards to the R&D process. The remdesivir has been administered to about 432 patients across 58 clinics nationwide. And as for the live quarantine measures, the Safety Ministry has in place the Safety E-report, and we have an example of the report that have been reported lately. And we need to also confirm the exact. There are confirmations that need to be done. However, we have confirmed that there were also people consuming food inside public transportation like buses, and there were no control over these people. And also we have seen cases of lecturers not wearing their face masks at colleges as well. And we continue to note that the high-risk categories, including the senior citizens, and as for the hospitals and as for the nursing homes that houses these senior citizens, we need to take particular precautions, and we need to also keep a strict control of the visitors, and also have the quarantine measures put in place at a daily basis, and the staff and members do not need to visit the publicly used facilities like cafes and so far. And once again, we would like to highlight that during Chuseok holidays, we would like to encourage everyone to refrain from heading to their hometowns or travel and visiting their relatives as well as their parents. And we believe that this is to minimize the contact with senior citizens and your loved ones as well. And please visit the ancestral graves via online means. And also, if this is inevitable, we ask you to go in small groups and also reduce your stay time at these ancestral graves. And looking at the trends of the COVID-19 here in Korea, we have seen a continuous decline in the number of new cases. The quarantine authorities would like to once again note that we believe that in practicing social distancing, our public citizens have showcased a great sense of unity, solidarity, and we believe that we are very proud of our citizens. And just on the verge of a massive outbreak, instead of putting in place a nationwide lockdown, our members of the public have participated in the quarantine measures and social distancing, and we believe that these cases are difficult to find in other countries. Of course, COVID-19 has a high infectious rate, and there are also silent spreaders as well as those with no symptoms. And if we stay complacent, we would see another massive outbreak at any time. However, looking at the outbreak in Europe, which is suffering from an even larger outbreak compared to that of March, they are also mulling over a massive lockdown. However, South Korea is experiencing a very different case. And we were able to contain the virus continuously, and we need to never forget the following. And this is about intensifying our control on our religious facilities as well as high-risk facilities, and also all of the sacrifices and endurances that have to be endured by the self-employed and also the small business owners. And we would like to thank all of these people once again, and we will also exert our full efforts to contain the virus going forward. Nevertheless, we would like to note that with the social level 2 social distancing measures put in place nationwide, how the outbreak would also unfold in the future, and how the Chuseok holiday will be passed, and we believe that they also will have a new proceedings of our outbreak going forward, and therefore we cannot let our guards down yet. And there is a proverb that it is actually more dangerous when we are climbing downhill, and we are currently assessing the relapses of the cases of the virus infections with the experts. And right now, we have seen as for the mutations of the genes, the genetic mutations do not impact the therapeutics or the vaccines development. Once again, we would like to note that therapeutics, vaccines, and masks, these are some of the solutions that could combat the COVID-19. However, the social distancing measures is ever more important in combating the virus. And the social distancing measures can also entail all of those containment measures to contain the virus and to cut off the chain transmissions. And until we have we claim a victory over the COVID-19 virus, we believe that the most effective measure is to minimize social contact with others, and we need to also take into account the importance of social distancing at all times. And with these measures, we can also terminate the COVID-19 outbreak. And of course, we will have the vaccines, therapeutics coming up in the future. However, until we have developed effective effective therapeutics and vaccines. We need to contain the virus, and we need to lower our fatality rates with such measures of social distancing. And I have great confidence in the energy and the potential of our public. And once again, we ask you to continue to practice social distancing in Chuseok. Thank you very much.
Right, that was Kwon Jin-wook, the Deputy Director General of the Central Disease Control Headquarters, with Tuesday's afternoon briefing. So, what was the gist of his briefing today?
Well, first off, Kwon mentioned that out of the 17 major cities and provinces in the country, 8 reported not a single case of the coronavirus this Tuesday, which is pretty significant because if we look back to some weeks ago, we had days when all 17 regions were affected by the coronavirus. But still, there are remaining cluster infections across the nation. Kwon did mention a handful in the capital Seoul, also in nearby Gyeonggi-do province, as well as in the southern port city of Busan. And there was also a recent study that was mentioned by Kwon, which is on the existing diseases such as chickenpox and measles. And it looks like this year, almost 60% less cases were confirmed related to chickenpox and measles, which is quite an interesting result, which Kwon attributed to the nation's people abiding by social distancing measures as well as practicing personal hygiene. And last but not least, he again renewed calls on the nation's people to try to refrain from moving around during the Chuseok holiday, which comes next week.
Right. All right. So, thank you for that wrap up.
Thank you.
Right, as part of efforts to better contain COVID-19, officials have sought to share essential information about infection paths with the public that may include some personal details about infected individuals. So what happens after this information has served its purpose? We tell you in this next report.
Back in May, amid the rising number of COVID-19 cases in the capital region, Seoul's Songpagu district created a new department dubbed the Internet Quarantine Task Force. The task force is the first of its kind to be established in Korea, dedicated to protecting the anonymity of COVID-19 patients.
선생님께서는 14일이 지나셨기 때문에 동선 정보 삭제 요청이 가능하시고요.
Contact tracing has been one of the key highlights of Korea's response to COVID-19, and only specific types of personal information related to the confirmed cases are disclosed to the public, such as their movement paths and the time of their visits when they were exposed. Contact tracing information is either deleted or no longer available for public viewing when 14 days have elapsed after a confirmed patient's last known contact with another person. However, the problem lies with information that have been shared or reposted online through social media and other platforms.
14일이 지나면 지자체에서는 이 정보를 삭제하고 있지만 이 정보를 2차 가공해서 블로그라든지 카페, SNS에 추가로 공유하시는 분들은 이 정보가 그대로 남아있기 때문에 확진자나 이제 상호명이 공개된 사업체에 대해서 개인 사생활 침해라든지 금전적인 불이익이 발생할 수가 있기 때문에
A recent study here in Korea has shown that COVID-19 patients were more afraid of social isolation than the fear of reinfection, underscoring the need to guarantee their anonymity. So how does the internet quarantine process work? Requests are made by phone or through the district office website, whereupon the task force contacts the user and the operator of the web platform, asking to delete the information in question. If the demands aren't met, the authorities then contact the portal site operator for their cooperation.
다수의 지자체들과 코로나19 동선정보 삭제 공동으로 대응을 하고 있는데요. 평균적으로 한 달에 1000건 정도 지자체의 협조 요청을 받아서 처리하고 있고요.
The Songpagu District Internet Quarantine Task Force has received around 1,600 requests and have successfully deleted the personal information pertaining to nearly 3/4 of those cases. However, many challenges remain.
지금 현재로서는 저희가 삭제 요청을 드릴 수는 있는데 만약에 카페 주인이라던가 블로그 주인이 본인의 또 다른 SNS 계정이라던가 이런 것들을 본인이 지우지 않으면 이 정보가 계속 남아있다는 그런 단점이 아직은 있습니다.
In the absence of a relevant legal framework, the information can only be deleted through voluntary cooperation of the users and web operators. Meanwhile, the government is working on new legislation to address these shortcomings.
감염병 환자가 제출한 자료들에 대해서 삭제할 권리를 충분하게 보장할 필요가 있겠습니다. 특히 EU에서 논의되고 있는 이칠 권리와 관련된 어떤 쟁점들이 있기 때문에 추가적으로 전문가들의 여러 연구들이 같이 이루어질 필요가 있을 것 같습니다.
Protecting the confidentiality of COVID-19 patients require not only stronger legislation, but improvements in public awareness on people's rights to privacy.
On the international front, we turn to Brazil today, the world's third worst hit nation. I have Tiziane Oliveira, a journalist in the Latin American country, live on the line. Hello, Tiziane.
Hello, Sunny.
Tiziane.
Good evening, and thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for being with us, Tiziane. Now, do start by telling us about the COVID-19 situation in Brazil.
Yes, Brazil has reached a sad milestone of 4.5 million COVID-19 cases. Currently, the virus has killed more than 137,000 Brazilian citizens since the beginning of the pandemic in the country. The average death rate from the past 7 days has increased in 2 out of the 26 Brazilian states, Roraima and Rio de Janeiro, where the social distancing rules have been broadly disrespected, Sunny.
I see. Tiziane, as is the case worldwide, the persistent spread of the pandemic and the surge in fatalities are bound to fuel other social problems. Could you tell us a bit about this reality in Brazil?
Yes, there are many issues that have been reported by the population. For instance, the number of domestic violence and abuse, unemployment, not to mention the emotional and psychological health of the families. Parents that are feeling overwhelmed by taking care of the children and sometimes even of their own parents. And the elderly especially have been feeling more and more isolated.
Right, those are challenges faced by the world as a whole, I suppose. Tiziane, Brazil's main national soccer championship kicked off early last month after a 3-month delay, that is. I understand that starting from next month, the stadiums will welcome spectators as well. What has been the response to this and what measures are in place to ensure safety?
Well, the national championship has been delayed for 3 months because of the COVID-19 situation. The mayor of Rio de Janeiro, Marcelo Crivella, said on Friday that he would allow fans to return to Maracanã Stadium for a game in October. The decision was postponed by the Rio de Janeiro government, the state of Rio de Janeiro government, but the possibility still exists. Crivella intended to make a test in the match between Flamengo and Atlético on October the 4th. But the state government suspended the event and any other kind of events, public events with so many people together.
I see. Tiziane, like hearing career relief funds are being sought for people in Brazil to ease their financial burden amid the pandemic. But I hear there is much controversy surrounding the issue of these relief funds. Tell us a bit more.
Sunny, it's the same situation here in Brazil. The emergency aid has been one of the government's main instruments to mitigate the effects of the economic crisis resulting from the COVID-19 pandemic in the country. However, the government has passing on financial aid for the last 5 months, and the last weekend the extension of the emergency aid was announced until the end of the year and was confirmed to be only half of the amount of money that it used to be. It's a delicate matter. The population do not agree on that yet, and it's definitely a challenge and a big management issue for the whole country right now.
I see. All right, Tiziane, thank you very much for making the time to join us live with your thoughts at this hour.
Thank you, Sunny.
정부도 국민 여러분의 어려움을 조금이나마 덜어드리고자 4차 추경이 국회에서 확정되는 대로 필요한 곳에 곧바로 집행될 수 있도록 미리 준비하겠습니다.
As foreign pundits have described it, Korea's fiscal taps are open and ready to prop up the local economy amid the pandemic. In today's studio session, we touch upon the fourth supplementary budget as well as the undeniable relationship between effective COVID-19 containment and relative economic stability. I have Professor Song Soo-young from Chungang University. Welcome back, Professor Song.
Thank you for having me here.
And I also have Professor Oh Jun-seok from Sookmyung Women's University. Pleasure to have you back, Professor Oh.
Thank you for inviting me.
Right, Professor Song, what are your thoughts on the timing of the fourth supplementary budget of 7.8 trillion won?
First of all, I would like to say always better early than late. I think the 7.5 trillion Korean won, the fourth supplementary budget is a necessary step to contain the outbreak of the COVID-19 spread, because we have witnessed some resurgence of the COVID-19 because of the late August 15th, some gathering in the Central Plaza in Seoul City that has caused a really serious damage on the economy as well as the damage on the casualties from the COVID-19. However, the government has taken a very quick and swift step to contain those outbreaks spread out over the country. So, along with that, the current fourth supplementary budget is a very timely step, and it could help the economy to recover soon.
Right, indeed, Professor Song. Professor Oh, as Professor Song just mentioned, international pundits have praised Korea's prompt and fairly aggressive fiscal approach, adding that this strategy, combined with its innovative campaign of encouraging domestic consumption, has led to the relative economic stability here in Korea compared to its counterparts abroad, of course. What are your thoughts on this?
Economic outlook depends on many factors and assumptions. So everybody could say, and then even some people say it is very hard to restore the normal business by 2021. That is why, as Professor Song mentioned, that certain steps to be taken, and as researched today, the fourth supplementary budget would be ready. And OECD expects Korean economy would restore its momentum next year up to 3% of economic growth. Nobody dare to say when is when and what is what though, but I agree with at this moment that the OECD outlook that Korean government caught the right timing of monetary injection into an economy. It's a supplement for the rebalancing the normal business and way of life. But it might be one point, but it's not the point. I mean that recovering economy depends not on the functioning government, but it depends on the role of functioning market. So restoring market is the final solution. And the point is how to restore the confidence. It might be crucial for recovery of the Korean economy. But considering the fact that the Korean economy is very highly dependent upon the global economy, that the global investors' confidence might be very, very critical. And then restoring consumption and production and the functioning market in Korea, we have to monitor the global capital market.
I see. Professor Song, for the sake of comparison, can we talk about the situation in other countries? Now, I am aware that the US began with an aggressive fiscal policy like Korea, but efforts slowed as lawmakers clashed over the size of the second possible supplementary budget. Could you tell us more from that?
Yeah, in the United States, actually, right now, the federal chair, Jerome Powell, he is attending the Congress hearing, and he has testified that the swift government clearly has helped avert the further deep down economic deep down. But however, still the Federal Reserve just only help some financial industry, and they have he is aware of some limitation of the role of the monetary policy, but the fiscal policy expansion is relatively blocked by the congressmen in the United States. So that is a problem to be overcome. And for the other countries, I have data about the government deficit or fiscal support percentage of 2019 GDP around the world. And here in Korea is, according to, we have three areas: the direct support for the firms and some small and medium enterprise and through the healthcare, tax deferrals, and then guarantees and loans. Clearly, we have offered some relatively some substantial amount of guarantees and loans, but this has a limitation to be delivered to the small and medium enterprise. Only it could create the confidence over the financial industry, so it has an indirect effect. But other countries such as Japan, Italy, Deutschland, and Australia, Canada, all has set up really direct support, really very large, and also offer the tax deferrals. So in Korea, the direct support is less than 4% of 2019 GDP. So it implies that we have so much room for the fiscal support. However, we could accomplish much higher growth or economic recovery much faster than actually that is relatively blocked by the minor in the Congress. But at least today's passing of the bill, the first supplementary budget, it could be some kind of a positive harbinger for the further expansion of the fiscal support for the people.
Right. Meanwhile, Professor Oh, in a recent report on global economy, the OECD called on Korea to maintain its expansionary fiscal policy, as Professor Song spoke of, and to better support those financially vulnerable. Do you believe that the government's current policy is flowing in that particular direction?
Thank you for asking, Sunny. Yes, it sure is. As far as it is about the expansion of the fiscal policy, it is in line with the Korean government policy. And then I might say it's not unique view of OECD or other professionals. It might be widely understood among economists or business professionals as an emergency plan or a scenario in preparation for the second hit outbreak or in time of economic recession. Especially what OECD touches on the importance is the universal basic income targeted for the less, what I've said, that lesser group in a society in need, and to restore their normal life, and then relatively more fragile to outbreak or uncertainty. Microeconomic perspective view of that emerging fund or support for sustaining small business is top priority. But from the macroeconomic perspective, in an attempt to avoid liquidity trap, expansionary fiscal policy might be understood as a reasonable and to the point at this point. And then OECD expect less pessimistic, and then the gradual recovery is on the way in Korean economy, despite of the kind of what I'm saying, that contraction and confinement measures in and out of economy. But at this moment, what is more important is, again, restoring confidence will be crucial, and then how successfully economies can recover. And then for this, we need to learn how to safely live with the virus.
Right. Professor, so staying with the OECD, it expects the world economy to shrink by 4.5% this year. Now, back in June, it projected that the economy, the global market, would contract by 6%. The latest figure, 4.5% contraction. Is this an indication that the global economy may be on a path to stable recovery? I'd be very cautious right now.
Yeah, according to the recent data and publication by the OECD, the interim outlook has been revised for the more positive and increased growth rate. That is actually led by some global trade. The recovery is much faster than expected. So with caution, the OECD and other economists make a forecast that we are going to have a V-shaped recovery of the world economy. What is the main engine, primary engine to drive that force is actually international trade. Particularly, Chinese economy has grown much faster, and they have recovered, their economy recovered from the coronavirus because now it is stabilized totally, and the world economy and the international trade and also the purchase managers index had shown some higher than 50 points, so which means that positive prospect for the world economy. So right now, we have some positive aspect. That's why the OECD has revised because of the improved world trade. Then the problem is because that could cause some more conflict between China and the United States, because United States is really jealous about the Chinese economic recovery. So that's why it might cause a conflict between the two countries. So that is the hurdle we have to overcome.
Right. Professor O, while the OECD forecast that the global economy will shrink by 4.5%, here in Korea, the local economy is expected to mark an on-year decline of just 1%. Now, this figure is the highest growth estimate among the 37 OECD member countries, as the global average is a 4.5 contraction. Do you believe a 1% contraction for Korea would boost the confidence that we're talking about?
At this moment, we have to talk about it relatively. And even though in spite of second wave of COVID-19 pandemic, the OECD interim economic outlook look up the brighter side of the Korean economy, which means if the Korean economy has a resilience capacity, which might affected and then reflected in the adjustment of the economic forecast of Korea. Among OECD member countries, Korea is named for ace in a team. You know, that the adjustment between quarter 2 and quarter 3, range of economic outlook, Korea shows 0.2% rise, which reflected the capacity of the resilience of Korean economy. And then, whereas the China highest adjustment of 4.4% rise. But in case of India, they showed 6.5% of percentage drop, which negatively reflected the resilience power. So I would say even some people might say that OECD might be generous and then less pessimistic, but Korea has done better relatively till now, and the capability to risk management in terms of quarantine measurement, like equipped the system of testing processes or the wearing masks, and then even strict confinement, that this respect that the Korean economy, OECD economy, value the Korean economy in terms of resilience capability.
Right. Now, owing to the lack of time, Professor Song, I'll have to ask you a question that I was actually preparing to ask you towards the end of our talk. But Professor O mentioned this. We are an export-oriented nation, which means a resurgence of the virus across the globe will affect us tremendously. Keeping this in mind, what can Korea do to better prepare for such a reality?
Yeah, I would like to illustrate, take the example from the German, Deutschland's response in the coronavirus resurgence. Now the German economy considers they decided to set up a headquarters in China and in the United States because of they have suffered so much from some disruption of supply chain. So rather than holding a headquarters only in one or domestic in Germany, rather just set up a headquarters in China and in United States. Despite the conflict between the third country or disruption of the supply chain, still they could sell and those products within some big countries. So that could have give us some good case for our economy to consider how to overcome the upcoming coronavirus resurgence. So to that regard, I would rather than taking back the Korean companies out of the China or other countries' territory, as long as rather just set up a factory on those countries and some autonomous headquarters could be established within those different countries, and then still we could connect with each other with the help of the information technology, despite some resurgence of the coronavirus. So that is one way to overcome. And then as long as the economy-wise, currently we need more stronger support, and we have more fiscal room. Therefore, we don't have to worry about some fiscal government deficit or household debt is a little bit of concern, but household debt is still solvent as long as the economy or real estate price remains stable over time. We don't have to worry about too much about that. So that is my opinion.
All right. All right, Professor Song, thank you very much for your thoughts. And Professor Oh, as always, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, now we end this edition of COVID-19 on that note. Do tune in tomorrow as we address the world's response to COVID-19 against the backdrop of a virtual UN summit this year. In the meantime, do seek to share your thoughts with us on our social media accounts. Thank you for being with us.